Welcome to The Explainer. All right, let's talk about something that quietly takes down so many founders. It's not a lack of funding, it's not the market, it's the slow erosion of self-trust. Today, we're going to lay out a whole new architecture for building it back, not based on wishful thinking, but on cold, hard evidence. So let me just start with a question I hear all the time. Why do some of the smartest, most capable people you'll ever meet feel so inconsistent? You know what I'm talking about, right? That cycle of starting something with huge energy only to watch it fizzle out. And I want to be crystal clear about this. This is not a character flaw. It is a systems problem. You see, the problem is most of us are using a totally broken model to build trust in ourselves. We've been told it's all about motivation, making these giant commitments, and having perfect discipline. But the reality, the system that actually works, is so much simpler. It's built on repetition, tiny little actions we call reps, and tangible, undeniable evidence. It's time to reframe this whole thing.
Okay, so let's dig into why making that big promise to yourself almost always backfires. You know the one. Starting Monday, I'm a completely different person. We've all done it. And it almost always leads us right back where we started, stuck in that frustrating cycle of starting and stopping.
The psychology here is pretty wild. When you try to force a massive change, your brain basically freaks out. It sees this new you as a threat to your current identity and puts up a huge wall of resistance. So when you inevitably slip up, and you will, it's not just a minor setback. It actually reinforces that toxic little voice in your head that says, "See, I told you so, you can't follow through." This isn't a failure of willpower. It's a completely predictable response to unsustainable pressure. So the solution isn't to just try harder. The solution is to be smarter than your own brain. We need to work with our own internal wiring, not constantly fight against it. And the most effective way to do that is with a technique we call the micro rep. This is how you sneak right past that internal resistance. And here it is. This is the core concept. A micro rep is just a tiny, repeatable action tied to a specific skill. The secret ingredient? It has to take under 5 minutes. It needs to be so small, so unintimidating that it's actually easier to just do it than to make an excuse. And pay close attention to the purpose here. It's not about mastering the skill. It is purely about collecting evidence, a little receipt that says, "Yep, I showed up today." So how do you actually do this? Well, the process is a dead simple 4-step loop. First, you pick one skill. Seriously, just one, not 10. Second, you define a tiny version of it that takes less than 5 minutes. Third, you do it every single day. And fourth, this is key, you log it. Check a box, make a note, whatever. You collect the evidence. The entire focus is just on generating proof that you are capable. Now, all this theory is great, but let's look at a real-world example. Because this is where you can see how this simple process can build a completely new identity. This is where the architecture becomes a real, tangible structure. This quote is from a student in our 365 Freedom program, and man, it just perfectly captures the problem. They had started and stopped so many times that they truly believed inconsistent was a core part of who they were. Their past actions had become their identity. So instead of some huge promise like, "I'm going to become a thought leader," we dialed it way, way back. We isolated one skill, articulating ideas. And the micro rep? Just record a 2-minute voice memo each day sharing one idea. Simple, repeatable, and pretty much non-negotiable. So what happened? Well, this is the amazing part. It didn't take months. It didn't even take weeks. After just 7 days of performing this one tiny 2-minute action, something really fundamental started to shift. And this gets right to the heart of it all. The goal was never to record a perfect voice memo. The goal was to change the internal story. They stopped seeing themselves as someone who quits, and instead, they started to see themselves as someone who practices. You see that? The whole identity shifted from being about the outcome to being about the process. So the crucial takeaway is this. This process isn't really about getting good at a new skill. Though that happens, it's a great side effect. No, this is about identity transformation. At the end of the day, you literally are what you repeatedly do. Think of it like this. Every time you complete a micro rep, you're casting a vote for a new version of yourself. You're laying down another piece of proof that says, "I'm the kind of person who shows up." Over time, that pile of evidence becomes so big that your belief system has no choice but to get in line. This is how you systematically rewrite your own identity. And if there's one thing you remember from this, let it be this. Self-trust doesn't come from more pressure or more shame or trying to find more motivation. It's earned. You earn it from yourself by keeping the smallest possible promises day after day until the evidence is just undeniable. Okay, so now you get it. You understand the architecture of an evidence-based identity. You see the power of these micro reps. But to make this your permanent new operating system, you need a framework. A system is what makes this whole process repeatable and reliable for the long haul. So here's your immediate action plan. Forget about next month, forget about next week, today. Choose one skill, define one rep that takes less than 5 minutes, and then just do it. You don't need a perfect, elaborate plan. You just need one small, consistent rep to start collecting the evidence that will build real, lasting self-trust. And that really brings us to the final question for every founder out there who's just exhausted by that start-stop cycle. If you're ready to go beyond just understanding this architecture and actually install it in your life, that's where a system like the 365 Freedom Framework comes into play. It provides the clean structure, the operating system, to make this whole process a permanent part of how you work, so you can finally build that unshakable, evidence-based self-trust.